Hi there, I'm Joan Lima, editor of Data Economy, and here with me I've got Paul Lowe, Solutions Director for the Enterprise Business Group at Huawei. Paul, thanks a lot for talking to me. So this IoT world has a lot of things going on. So we've got about 50 billion devices coming online in 2020.
That's right.
And this will be an economy of about $4.6 trillion.
Yep.
Huge. How can data centers use artificial intelligence to cope with the demand that's coming at them?
It's a very good question. So for us in Huawei, one of the things that we're trying to look into the future is how are data centers, enterprises going to handle that quantum volume of data into the future. So we feel that not many people are addressing this challenge into the future. And to be frank, today the way the world, the IT world is looking at it is through data scientists, is through software, usually traditional relational database software, right? We feel that there's actually not enough data scientists in the world to analyze this problem. We feel that because today we have a lot of artificial intelligence technology, we have a lot of deep learning and machine learning technology, that can be automated. And in order to be automated, we're bringing cognitive intelligence into the data center. So which means that for IoT, for example, right? So today you get IoT data from buildings, from cars, from weather, all the environment around us, right? And it's going into a storage system today that's just sitting there, just dumb data. But there's actually a lot of information that you can collect from it. And weather systems, for example, how Singapore's weather systems and the sensor data is captured, it relates to its neighbor as the winds pass down to geospatially, right? Maybe some of the information we can pass along and share with our neighboring countries, right? But you can't do that at an individual person level. You need cognitive science to handle that. And there's actually good technology in research organizations and universities that have this technology, that have this capability, but they're waiting for it to be utilized. So we feel that the best center to utilize that today is in a cognitive data center.
Okay, but for example, we've heard a lot about cognitive computing from for example, IBM, Watson. You have Google with AlphaGo, so the chess game. How is Huawei going to build this cognitive science, cognitive computing into the data center? So what's the work you're doing around this and partnering around maybe with companies like Google, for example? Are you going to bring Google's deep learning, deep dreaming technology into this?
And that's a good question as well. So to us, folks like IBM and Google and Microsoft, they're partners to us.
Okay.
We will provide the data center. They may have their specific client base and industries that they have excellence in. So for IBM, their excellence is in banking. Their excellence in some military industries as well too, because historically they've had a deep relationship with that, right? But they may not be as strong, for example, in manufacturing as we are. They may not be as strong in government, let's say we might be. And they may not be as strong in a Chinese market that we are very strong in. And the strongest market we're in is telecom. Because Huawei, we carry and we manage the world's top 45 of the top 50 carriers, right? The carriers have a lot of data that today, we know this because we work with them a lot. They're not utilizing it, and they don't even have a team on how to maximize it, right?
And also there's no speed to do it.
There's no speed to do it, and there is no kind of a structured way to do it. So for us, it's about taking advantage of that data economy that's going to explode. We believe that by 2020, we're going to be moving into the Zeta economy. So today we're at the gigabyte, at the terabyte, at the petabyte, at the exabyte.
It's going faster than anyone.
But exactly. It's going to be a quantum leap. Why? Because you take an example like Intel. Intel manufactures chipsets that are going to be inside autonomous vehicles. So autonomous vehicles generate massive amount of data. On average, they say from Intel, information from Intel, 4 terabyte of data is going to be generated on a day-to-day basis. My laptop has only 1 terabyte, so that's 4 times one day.
They multiply that by a lot of millions of cars around the world.
Exactly. Now, Singapore is a smaller country, but you look at a country like Germany, which is a manufacturing hub, right? America, US, and China, although it's still growing, but the quantum of people, and then India as well too, right? So there will be an inflection point where that data is going to be, you're going to see an explosion, exponential growth. So that's where we feel that there's actually not enough facilities analyzing the data. That data is extremely useful. And in fact, if we are smart about it, we feel that some of that data are assets, are data assets. So meaning I can, for example, if I'm from a school that generates a lot of information about studying habits of students from a country that has good academic results, can I resell that back or at least license it back to a country who may need it in an emerging market, right? So there are so many ideas that we feel that is unexplored. And for us, it's not just building a cognitive data center to analyze that data in an automated, in a structured way, but also we need developers who actually can imagine things outside of what we can imagine, right?
So that's interesting because see, when people talk about automation and artificial intelligence and everything else, you think about the data center, we know humans running it. So apart from the security guys outside the building actually securing the building physically, no one ever thinks about having the humans behind the data center in the future, so 5-10 years time, for example.
Correct.
And you're saying that we're still going to need developers. So are you talking about a sort of artificial intelligence that we still need humans to develop it?
Yes.
Or you're not talking about the next type of artificial intelligence that's going to develop itself into the next steps? Because by the end of the day, we will not need humans one day. So
that's a science fiction future we're talking about. We could get there one day.
It's a doable future.
It's a doable. With quantum computing, actually that's possible. And there's actually research into quantum computing. Some of those ideas we actually can accelerate and put it in a cognitive data center as well too, right? So quantum computing allows you to do things at an exponential fast rate. So we can process information in the cognitive data center using such machines as well too, right? So instead of kind of near time, then we get in real time, right? So that's a value add we see as a complementary computing resource into the cognitive data center.
Okay. And then when it comes to actually building the data center, how is that going to change the sort of different levels and layers of that house?
Well, one of the things, because of the quantum of data that we will be inundated with, the data center workloads, because some of it in real time, will consume a lot of power. So as a result, some of the forward-looking ideas that we have thought out, we need to build green data center to complement and actually house this type of cognitive computing data centers. Because when it's cognitive, it's running all the time. But when you have a data center, exactly. So that constant processing of information requires power, requires cooling, right? So we feel that we don't want to, our environmental responsibility is to build these data centers that are also friendly back to our environment, to our societies, and the communities that we operate, right? So as a result, like in Singapore, we're actually working with one of the IT authorities to build what we call a vertical or green data center, where we'll use natural air and wind turbine resources to cool down, to suck hot air away from the server and the rack spaces, right? So that we don't need to consume power. Okay. And then the other part is we may use solar power, we may use wind power. Those capabilities are developed in other markets, right? But we need to also partner with those energy providers to lower our energy usage efficiency rates.
But then, because we talk about Singapore and we are in Asia, Data Cloud Asia, how do you work in China to get the green energy out there? Because we're from the West, we see China has a huge pollutant.
Yes.
So how do you bring renewable energy out there in China? Because that's very interesting. It's a huge thing.
It's a huge market. It's a huge opportunity. And the way China is addressing it is some of it is through regulation.
Okay.
So
is it too hard to develop these sort of projects?
I don't think it's hard to develop it. It requires a little bit of policy setting by the government. Okay. So today, there are certain cities in China, for example, the big cities like Beijing and Shanghai and Shenzhen. There are cars that are battery operated, electric cars, right? They're more favorable for consumers, to passengers, private car owners to buy than the traditional petrol-based, right? So those cars are by default, because they're electrified. A lot of them are starting to come with autonomous features built in. And today, for the government to be more efficient at utilizing energy, what you want is a traffic management system that actually has a real-time view of where all the cars are, even people. So that those capabilities, that sensor information will be captured from IoT devices, right? Okay. But who's going to process that? You're going to hire an army of data scientists? No, it's not possible, right?
They're better than unicorns.
Yeah.
But so, for example, we were talking about this cognitive data center, and this is still something that we're just debating it. Yeah. It doesn't exist yet. So we're still working on the deep learning, deep dreaming, working on all these neural networks and what's coming next.
Correct.
This faster networks as well to cope with all this data transfer.
Correct.
When do you think, even on the Huawei side, but when do you think we're going to see the first cognitive data center, the truly cognitive data center out there?
We can see that all the capabilities are there. The technology, the skill sets to build it is there. We're in the beginning of 2017 now. I can project by 2020 we will have kind of a commercialized version of it, right?
When you say commercialized, you say like a big house or a micro, like
kind of like, well, container, and also there could be certain data centers that today may allocate their space, because data centers usually start 5 floors, right?
Yeah.
Maybe there will be certain floors that are built for cognitive computing only.
So
try out,
yeah. Okay, that's interesting.
So which we require, discussions with the regulatory authorities, right? We designate those certain floors to cognitive data centers, right? So like in Singapore's case, we actually might build our own for specifically the public sector, right? Okay. And that's a proof of concept, but it has to be done. It's for us, it's either we're going to be disrupted, or we'll be a part of the. Yeah. We'll do the disruption, and we'd rather be part of that.
Okay. So what's Huawei work from now on until 2020 more or less? So how are you going to work with the community? Because I guess this takes a lot of heads from a lot of different companies, especially the big dogs like Microsoft, Google, IBM, those sort of people that actually have the knowledge about cognitive, for example.
Right.
How is Huawei going to work with all of them to build this data center of the future?
We will, in certain markets, require that those customers, because they already use some level of cognitive software from the likes of IBM and Microsoft, that we might build it for the mass market, which they may not have a focus on. So they become our partners. And by being so, we actually will license their software, right? Okay. Or the data center provider that say will provide a package for, say, the automotive industry, right, or the educated industry. That whole package will be packaged with, say, a Watson cognitive computing model, right? And that will have an entire, say, a subscription model that's packaged for Ford, for Tesla, and they will consume that information that every car will consume and push it into that cognitive data center, right? Because Tesla themselves don't have the facility. They're in the business of manufacturing cars, right? Who's going to process all that data that they collect? And each car inside has a limited amount of space inside that storage system, right? So they have to push it somewhere.
Talking about the car becoming some sort of data center on wheels.
Yes.
So you'll be
but a temporary one.
A temporary one, okay, that makes sense. Because then it has to go to the edge, it has to go through the fog, then it has to go through the edge, then to the mothership data center.
Correct. And analyze it on an aggregate level, right? Yes. How do you do that?
Right? Get the trends of traffic and all the things.
And a car, its real job, the computer inside, is to monitor and provide the safety of the passenger inside. It should not be processing data, to be honest, right? Okay. Its job should be collect and then push it off to somewhere else.
Okay, so and over the next couple of months, what can we expect from Huawei in this sort of topic of the cognitive data center, the future intelligence data center? Do you have anything prepared coming out?
Yes, we do. Actually, with Singapore and the government, we want to sign, we're already in discussions. Hopefully we get to the level, we're able to sign some MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, and actually put a real POC into production.
This year?
Yeah, okay. And we're working with an agency. They say we want to kick butt. We want to blow this out of the water. Okay. So we want to make an iconic project, and these are some of the exactly the perfect spot for us to develop this in Singapore. But to do that, the data. I can analyze all the data, but there has to be a community of users that utilize that and develop applications, the killer apps from the consumer side and also on the enterprise side. Right?
Okay, Paul, thanks a lot for talking to me.
Thank you, Juan.
Don't forget you can follow us on Twitter, Facebook and LinkedIn, and also visit the website on www.data-economy.com.